I was setting the table when the doorbell rang. "Can someone get that?" Mom called from the kitchen. I was holding Grandma's china, the good stuff we only use for Thanksgiving, so I yelled back, "Charlie, get the door!" My 12-year-old brother didn't move from the couch, glued to his phone, as usual. "Charlie, I'm busy. You're on TikTok." The doorbell rang again. Dad appeared from the garage, wiping his hands on a towel. "I'll get it." I went back to arranging plates, 4 place settings. Small Thanksgiving this year, just us. Mom said she wanted intimate. I think she meant less work. I heard the front door open, then silence, then Dad's voice. "Can I help you?" A man's voice, rough, quiet. "I'm sorry to bother you on Thanksgiving. I was wondering, do you have any food you could spare?" I froze. Mom appeared in the dining room doorway. We locked eyes. A homeless man. At our door. On Thanksgiving. Dad's voice. Uncertain. He walked out and closed the door behind him, then came back in. Hold on a second." He closed the door. Walked into the kitchen. Mom followed him. I followed her. Dad was standing by the counter, staring at nothing. "Rob?" Mom's voice was tight. "What are you doing?" "There's a man outside. He's hungry. So give him some money, or leftovers, when we're done. He's alone, Jen, on Thanksgiving." Oh no, I knew that tone. "Rob, be reasonable." "I'm going to invite him in." "Absolutely not." Mom crossed her arms. "We don't know him. He could be dangerous." "He's not dangerous." "You don't know that." "Lauren," she turned to me. "Tell your father this is a bad idea." I looked at Dad, at his face. He'd already made up his mind. But Mom was right. This was weird. Uncomfortable. We were about to have Thanksgiving dinner, our family dinner, and Dad wanted to invite a homeless stranger. "Dad," I said carefully, "maybe we could just give him a plate. To go?" Dad looked at me, disappointed. "Lauren." "What? I'm just saying. We don't know him. And it's our Thanksgiving." "Exactly. It's Thanksgiving. And he has nowhere to go." "That's not our problem," I muttered. Dad's jaw tightened. "When did you become so selfish?" The words hit like a slap. "I'm not selfish. I'm being realistic. Mom agrees with me. Your mother is worried about safety. You're worried about being inconvenienced." "That's not fair." "Rob." Mom's voice was firm. "I understand you want to help. But bringing a stranger into our home, around our children, that's not safe. He is not dangerous. You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Dad's voice was firm, certain. Mom stared at him. "How?" Dad paused, looked at both of us. "Because I talked to him, for 2 minutes, before I came in here." "Talking to someone for 2 minutes doesn't tell you?" "Jen." He apologized 3 times for bothering us. He asked if we could spare food. Not money. Food. He said, "I haven't eaten in 2 days, but I understand if you can't help." Dad's voice softened. He was polite, respectful. His eyes... Dad struggled to find words. There was no aggression, no entitlement, just exhaustion, and hope that someone might see him as a person. "That doesn't mean..." "He has a wedding ring." Dad held up his hand, still wearing it, even though it's probably worth money he desperately needs. That tells me he loved someone, that he had a life before this. Mom's expression shifted, still uncertain, but listening. And when I opened the door, he stepped back, gave me space, didn't try to push in, didn't pressure. He was ready to walk away if I said no. "So why didn't you say no?" I asked. It came out more challenging than I intended. Dad looked at me. "Because I know what it's like to be invisible, Lauren." "What?" "I grew up poor. Really poor. We didn't have much. and people looked through me, like I wasn't there, like I didn't matter. I was shocked because I'd never heard this before. One person saw me, one teacher, treated me like I had value, like my potential mattered more than my circumstances. Dad's voice thickened. That teacher changed my life. What does that have to do with... If someone hadn't given me a chance when I had nothing, I wouldn't have this. He gestured around. At our house. Our life. I wouldn't have you, or Charlie, or any of this. He looked at Mom. You're right to be cautious. You're right to protect our family. But that man out there isn't dangerous. He's desperate, and there's a difference. How can you be so sure? Mom's voice was quieter now. Because dangerous people don't apologize. They demand. They threaten. They take. Dad walked toward the door. This man asked, politely, and he was ready to accept no for an answer. He walked back to the front door and put his hand on the doorknob, looked back at us. I can't turn away someone who's hungry on Thanksgiving, not when we have this much. I'm inviting him to have dinner with us. You can be uncomfortable. Lauren can be embarrassed. But that man is eating Thanksgiving dinner at our table. Mom opened her mouth, closed it. Dad opened the door. Mom looked at me, furious, scared, helpless. I felt the same way. Where are you spending Thanksgiving this year? Share in the comments below. And if you want more stories about kindness, transformation, and Thanksgiving miracles, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss our next story. Dad opened the front door. Sir, I'd like to invite you to join us for Thanksgiving dinner. Silence. Then the man's voice. I can't. I don't want to disturb you. You're not disturbing anyone. We have plenty of food, and no one should be alone today. Please, come in. More silence. Then footsteps. I watched from the dining room as a man stepped inside. He was maybe 60, thin, really thin, wearing a worn jacket that was too big, jeans with holes in the knees, boots that were falling apart, a backpack slung over one shoulder. His hair was gray and messy. His beard was long and unkempt. His face was weathered, tired, but his eyes were kind. Thank you, he said quietly. I'm David. Rob Mitchell. Dad shook his hand. This is my wife, Jennifer, my daughter, Lauren, my son, Charlie. Charlie had appeared in the hallway, staring, wide-eyed. Mom forced a smile. Hello, David. Ma'am? David nodded respectfully. I really appreciate this. It's been a while since I had a real meal. Of course. Mom's voice was strained. Rob, why don't you show David where he can wash up? Good idea. David, the bathroom's down the hall. Take your time. David hesitated. I don't want to be any trouble. You're not trouble, Dad said firmly. You're our guest. David nodded. Walked down the hall. Once he was gone, Mom grabbed Dad's arm. What are you doing? She hissed. The right thing. The right thing? Rob, we have children. Who are watching us, learning from us. What do you want them to learn? That we only help people when it's comfortable? I want them to learn that we protect our family first. By showing them it's okay to turn away someone in need? Mom opened her mouth, closed it. She had no answer. I felt sick. Because part of me agreed with Mom. This was weird, uncomfortable, wrong. But part of me, a small part, knew Dad was right. I just didn't want him to be. 10 minutes later, we were sitting at the table. David had washed up. His face was cleaner. His hair was still messy, but he'd tried to comb it with his fingers. Dad had lent him a clean shirt. It was too big, but better than the torn jacket. He sat between Charlie and Dad, across from me and Mom. He looked so out of place, at our table, with our good china, our nice tablecloth, our perfect Thanksgiving spread. Mom brought out the turkey. Dad finished carving the turkey, set down the knife, looked around the table. "Before we eat," he said, "I'd like us to share what we're grateful for this year. It's tradition in our family." Mom's eyes widened slightly. "We usually did this." "Yes." But with a stranger at the table? Dad either didn't notice her look or chose to ignore it. "I'll start," he said. "I'm grateful for my family, for this home, for the ability to share what we have with others. And I'm grateful for unexpected guests who remind us what Thanksgiving is really about." He looked at David when he said that last part. Mom was next. She cleared her throat. "I'm grateful for my family's safety and health." Her voice was tight, but sincere. Charlie went next. "I'm grateful for video games and for pizza." He glanced at David, looked away quickly. Then it was my turn. Everyone looked at me. I didn't want to do this, didn't want to share something real in front of this stranger. But Dad was waiting, expectant. "I'm grateful for—" I paused. What was I supposed to say? "For my family, and for having a nice house, and stuff." Lame. So lame. Dad's disappointment was visible. Then David spoke. "May I?" Dad nodded. "Of course." David set down his fork, looked around the table, at each of us. "I'm grateful," he said quietly, "for kindness. Real kindness. The kind that says, my home is your home, even when it's hard." His voice thickened. "I'm grateful for people who see humanity where others see nothing, who set an extra place at the table when the easy thing would be to close the door." He looked at Dad, then at Mom, then at me. "And I'm grateful for this meal, for this family, for being reminded that I'm still a person, still worthy of a seat at the table." Silence. Mom's eyes were wet. Charlie was staring at his plate. I felt something crack in my chest. This man, this stranger I'd wanted to turn away, was grateful just to be seen as human. Dad reached over, put his hand on David's shoulder. "We're grateful you're here." We passed dishes in silence. Stuffing, mashed potatoes, green beans, cranberry sauce. David took small portions. Polite, like he didn't want to take too much. "Please help yourself," Dad said. "There's plenty." "This is more than enough, sir. Thank you." We started eating. Silence. Just the sound of forks on plates, chewing. It was the most awkward meal of my life. Charlie kept staring at David. I kicked him under the table. He kicked me back. Mom was barely eating, just pushing food around her plate. I was eating fast, trying to get through this as quickly as possible. David ate slowly, carefully, like every bite was precious. "So, David," Dad said, "where are you from?" "Originally, Ohio, but I've been in Oregon for 30 years. "What brought you here?" "A teaching job." I looked up. "Teaching?" "You were a teacher?" Dad asked. "Yes, sir. Elementary school, 5th grade, for 28 years. I glanced at Mom. She looked surprised too. "That's a long career," Dad said. "What school?" "Hamilton Elementary, until 2019. "Hamilton?" Dad put down his fork. "I went to Hamilton, a long time ago, 82 to 87. David looked at Dad. "When were you in 5th grade?" 1984, Mrs. Ferguson's class. Mrs. Ferguson retired in 83. I took over her class. Silence. Dad stared at David. "What's your last name?" "Anderson. David Anderson." Dad's face went white. "Mr. Anderson?" David tilted his head, studying Dad. Then his eyes widened. "Robbie Mitchell? You remember me?" "Of course I remember you. You were in my first class, the kid who wanted to be an astronaut." Dad laughed, shocked. "I can't believe—" "Mr. Anderson." "You're Mr. Anderson." "I go by David now." "You taught me for 2 years, 5th and 6th grade. You were my favorite teacher." David smiled, small, sad. "That's kind of you to say." "It's true. You're the reason I went to college. You told me I was smart enough, that I could do anything. You were smart, Robbie. I just reminded you. Mom was staring. Charlie was staring. I was staring. Our homeless stranger was Dad's elementary school teacher. What? Dad's voice cracked. What happened? David's smile faded. Life happened. We finished eating in silence, but it was different now. Not uncomfortable, just heavy. After dinner, Dad made coffee. We moved to the living room. David sat in Dad's recliner. Charlie sat on the floor next to him, fascinated. I sat on the couch with Mom. She was quiet, thinking. Mr. Anderson, Dad said. David, I have to ask. What happened? How did you… He didn't finish. Didn't need to. David sighed. My wife, Susan. She got sick. Early onset Alzheimer's. She was only 55. I'm so sorry. She deteriorated quickly. Within 3 years, she didn't recognize me. I put her in a facility, the best one I could find. But it was expensive. Very expensive. He paused, stared at his coffee. I spent everything. Savings, retirement, sold the house, borrowed against my pension. But it still wasn't enough. I worked extra jobs, tutoring, summer school, anything. That must have been exhausting, Mom said quietly. It was. But she was my wife. I'd do anything for her. What happened to her? Charlie asked. Charlie, Dad started. It's okay, David said. She passed away 2 years ago, peacefully, in her sleep. I'm glad she didn't suffer, Mom said. Me too. But after she died, I had nothing. No house, no savings. I was 60 years old, exhausted, depressed. I lost my teaching job because I missed too many days. I couldn't find another one. Why not? I asked. It came out harsher than I meant. David looked at me. Not angry, just tired. Because schools don't hire 60-year-old teachers with gaps in their resume. They hire young teachers, cheap ones. Oh. I lived in my car for 6 months. Then I couldn't afford the car anymore. So I sold it. Been on the streets for 2 years now. 2 years? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. 2 years. Why didn't you reach out? To former students? To anyone? Pride, I suppose. I didn't want people to see me like this. Didn't want to be a burden. You wouldn't have been a burden. Robbie. David smiled sadly. You have a family, a life. You don't need your 5th-grade teacher showing up asking for help. Yes, I do. If that teacher is the reason I have this life. David's eyes filled with tears. So did mine. We convinced David to stay the night. He protested. Said he'd be fine. Said he didn't want to impose. Dad insisted. You're not imposing. You're staying. We have a guest room. It's yours. For tonight, Mom added, then paused, looked at Dad. Or longer, if you need it. David stared at her. Ma'am. Jennifer, call me Jen, and I mean it. Stay as long as you need. I can't. You can, I said. Everyone looked at me. I felt my face heat up. I'm sorry. For earlier. For how I acted. I was wrong. David shook his head. You were protecting your family. That's not wrong. But I wasn't? Not really? I was uncomfortable. And that's not a good enough reason to turn someone away. Lauren, Mom started. No, Mom. We were wrong. Both of us. Mr. Anderson needed help, and we almost didn't give it, because it was inconvenient. Tears were streaming down my face now. I'm 17 years old. I have everything, a house, food, family, safety. And I almost told Dad not to help you because it would make Thanksgiving dinner weird. That's horrible. I'm horrible. You're not horrible, David said gently. You're human, and you're learning. That's all any of us can do. Stay, I said. Please, We have the room, we have the food, and I want to do better. David looked at Dad, at Mom, at Charlie, at me. Okay, he said finally. I'll stay. Just for a little while. Until I get back on my feet. David stayed for 3 months. Not in the guest room. Dad helped him find a small apartment nearby. But he came over for dinner some day in the week. He started tutoring. Word spread. He was booked solid within a month. Then Hamilton Elementary called. They were short a substitute teacher. Would he be interested? He said yes. By February, they offered him a permanent position, part-time, teaching 5th grade again. He accepted. Last week, I drove to his apartment to pick him up for Thanksgiving. Our second Thanksgiving together. This time, he wasn't a stranger. He answered the door wearing khakis and a button-down shirt, clean-shaven, hair trimmed. He looked different, healthier, happier. Ready? I asked. Ready. In the car, he said, Thank you, Lauren, for everything. We didn't do anything. You did it yourself. No. You did something important. You changed your mind. You let me in. Not just into your house, into your life. I almost didn't. But you did. That's what matters. At dinner, we went around the table sharing what we were grateful for. Charlie. I'm grateful for Mr. Anderson teaching me long division. Mom. I'm grateful for second chances and for my husband's stubborn compassion. Dad. I'm grateful for teachers who see potential in kids and for being able to pay that forward. Mr. Anderson. I'm grateful for a family that saw me when I was invisible. That gave me a place at their table. That reminded me I still have something to offer this world. Then it was my turn. I'm grateful for being wrong, for learning that compassion isn't convenient. It's necessary. And I'm grateful for Mr. Anderson, for teaching my dad 30 years ago, and for teaching me last year. Everyone was crying. We held hands. And I realized that doorbell ringing last Thanksgiving didn't just change Mr. Anderson's life, it changed mine. Have you ever watched someone choose compassion when it was inconvenient? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story about kindness, transformation, and seeing people others overlook moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about second chances, compassion, and the moments that change everything. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss our next story. Thanks for watching, and we see you in the next one.